Hello YouTube, this is Isaac the Red of Red Mage Gaming, and today I thought I'd talk a little bit about lore building and how that pertains to things in your games and in the worlds that you create, whether they be for an RPG Maker or for if you're running a local D&D campaign with other role players and things like that, and if you're making the world for that. Figured I'd come up with about 8 things, 8 to 10 things, depending on how you really want to break it up. Things to consider when creating that world. Mechanically, lore-wise, just things to really build the lore around your world. Come up with kind of a list here that I've written down. There's tons of other things to consider with lore besides what I'm saying now, but I think these are some good key points that if you find your feeling on what you want to do with these kind of key points, a lot of the rest of your world will come together because it has these anchors to hang on to. Major thing is, does your world have magic? And is it a feared thing? Is it a thing that people rejoice about? Is it common? Is it rare? Can anyone do it? Or is it really just limited to like a specific race or a specific people? Or is it just kind of like an anomaly, like this person can use magic because they can, whereas this person who's of the same race just can't. And I mean, there's a whole lot of things that you can go into just focusing on the idea of magic, if there's magic in your world. And this can spread out to other areas of your world. As opposed to, is there magic? The technological progression of your world. How far has technology gone? Are there certain areas in your world that are just far more technologically advanced than the rest because, say, these people don't really trade or anything with other worlds, and they've developed quickly in their own community, in their own city, in their own area. Is that technology related to magic? If there's also magic in your world, is that technology related to magic, or is it its own separate actual technology? And are the people more focused on technology or more focused on magic? Is magic a waning facet of the world where people are forgetting that magic used to be key, and the simple technologies that make life so much easier for the common person who can't perform magic, is that getting widespread, that those that can perform magic are no longer seen as really special because of all the technology that can take its place? Are monsters in your world like actual monsters? Not just like bears in the woods and stuff like that. Like, is a mimic an actual thing in your world? A Bandersnatch or a goblin? Or abominations, slimes, things like that. Do those exist in your world? Or is your world, more down to earth and realistic, like our world is, where people are really the monsters? And I'll touch on the fame thing later, but coming over this side, religion. Does religion really take a part in your story? Are there any religious people in your world? what kind of religion do they follow? Are there more than one of these religions that people follow? I mean, are these religions focused on a single deity or multiple deities? I mean, is that what is that deity personified as? Take the Breath of Fire series. There was religion wasn't really a major thing, but there were churches, and there were churches there that followed a religion, and it was really kind of seen as like the only religion there. But then there was your save points were a statue, and that statue was a reverence to an old dragon god, which seemed separate from the churches of the game. So, I mean, like, is there an old forgotten religion or faith that very few still cling on to, and how does that fit into the rest of your world? Government. I mean, is religion related to your government and the politics that surround it? And this is the government and politics. This is a thing that'll change in many different areas of your world, depending on how big of a game you're looking to create and how really in depth and in detail you're looking to get into on it. I mean, you've got kings and queens, or are you looking at like governors and presidents and elected officials of different levels of office? Is it more like an old village aspect where the elders of the village come together and agree on what's good for the village as a whole, like a council? I mean, how do these different governmental bodies and all that from the different areas, how do they interact with each other? I mean, is there peace? Is there war? I mean, if there's multiple races in your game, elves, the dwarf, humans, maybe some kind of avian bird-man thing, or, I mean, it's your game, it could be whatever you want. You could have man-bear-pig in there as a race. That would be amazing. But how do the different races interact with each other? Are we going to go for a more Tolkien theme or a more D&D like theme where the dwarves and orcish kind and goblin kind really are really against each other, far more so than the rest of the races are against each other? I mean, if you have are your elves accepting people, or are they high and mighty people? How do the other races view the core, the most populous race in your world, whatever race that may be? And how is this tied in with your governments? And since there are multiple races, do these multiple races all have their own religions, and how do they conflict with each other with their conflicting beliefs on the creation of their world and all of that? I mean, these are a lot of key lore points that can push your story forward. Oh look, somebody liked one of my posts, I guess. Oh, that's cool. And looking into stuff, the history between the races, the continents, that history looking backwards before your game, the world before the events that will take place in the game that you make. And if you set up some of this background, this backdrop, and then build upon that, your world will kind of be a place that your characters will naturally fit into. And in these kind of situations, if you write the character as the character would act and give that character its own personality, the character will go through this world and just it'll work naturally. Building onto the history side of things, what's happening now? What are the key points of movement in the world for the characters that you're running through this story. I mean, what are the things happening around them? Is there a war going on? Are there tensions that could lead to a war? I mean, what are the conflicts? What are the events going on that are going to cause at the very least, your main character to go out into the world? I mean, an adventurer is an adventurer because something caused them to go on an adventure. What are the events in the world that made your characters go on their adventure? And coming back around from history and all of that, fame. What kind of famous people are in your world that are well known amongst people in certain areas? I mean, whether they're famous knights that have, led armies of soldiers to victory, generals in the kingdom that have, a notoriety around them for doing good, or maybe, there's people that are infamous that people don't like. And just different points to really look into when building your world. And I know my videos are kind of dry, not very graphical and movement based. I mean, I'm not really using a video editing software right now to try to fluff up and make a fantastic intro section to my videos and an outro section to my videos. In the future, I might do something like that, but for now, I really want to stick to the actual content that I'm talking about. I mean, in this case, lore building, and I'll build on to different things as I come up with them, or as if you suggest anything that you'd want me to go into detail on in my own way, feel free, post it in the comments below, and I'll take something. I'll run with it. I hope the background music isn't too loud and isn't drowning me out for you guys, and I've got a fan going on in the background right now because it is incredibly hot, and I hope that hasn't interfered with the video too much. But thank you for coming to watch again, and I hope these little points that I've gone over help you in building the world that you want to build to make your game in. But if you're gonna follow these kind of points on your own, I definitely suggest opening up Word, opening up Notepad, or OneNote like I've got open here, and just start, answer these points in some form of detail, and then and go from there. I mean, map building is great and all that, but do you know what kind of map you're gonna make if you don't know about your world? And what kind of world is surrounding your story, and does your story fit in that world? I mean, these are a lot of points that I go over repeatedly in my head when I'm building a game. Even if it's a small game, if you can answer the thought of magic, that tells you a lot of what you need to know about your skill system in the game. If magic is a thing, your skills, at least some of your skills, a portion of your skills are going to be magical in nature. They're going to be magic skills. I mean, if magic isn't in your game, well, then you're not going to have to worry about that, and you could go in and you could either rename or remove MP entirely to really work with that. Technology. I mean, if technology has progressed well enough, guns will be a thing in your game. I mean, it'll give you being able to answer these questions will give you the freedom and structure to really build a game that is enjoyable for others to play. But that about covers what I wanted to go over with this video. If you enjoyed hearing me ramble on, like, comment, and subscribe down below. And definitely, if you've got any suggestions, like I said earlier, comment them down below or send me a message. And if there's something good, if there's definitely something good, I'll pick up something and I'll make a video on it and I'll go on. And conversely, as I've said before, if you don't like my videos, dislike, comment, subscribe. Maybe I'll catch you on something further along the line.